Abraham Lincoln once said that if he had 6 hours to chop down a tree, he would take the first 4 to sharpen the axe. So how does that apply to business? Well, in business, you have a great tree. You have a big objective for a new product, a new system, financial goals you want to meet. That's your great tree. What do you have to chop it down with? Those are the people and the assets of the company that you're a part of. That's your asset. How do you sharpen it? Well, sharpening it is putting good leaders in charge of the execution that can fully engage all the assets of the company to make sure that's happening. Sadly, companies haven't been doing a very good job of sharpening their axe and having good leaders who will engage and get those things done. Why is that? Well, there's probably several reasons. I'll give you a few of mine. One, they've spent a lot of time, especially for the last decade or so, trying to make sure that every stroke of the axe is exactly the same as the last one, and that we're doing that stroking exactly right. So we're ironing out that process. We're eliminating variation. We call that Six Sigma. Six Sigma is a good thing. I love it. But if you're not sharpening the axe to begin with, you're probably missing something. Number two, you've gotten rid of a lot of the good leaders. So ever since I've been in the private sector for the last 30 years, middle managers, just an anathema. Get rid of them, delayer. And that's not a bad thing. Certainly there's an expense tied to that. If you can reduce expenses, it's a good thing for a company. And with the advent of better technology and email and things like that, a lot of the old functions of middle management are probably gone, so you can do with less. And that's true. That's a good thing if you can save some money, as long as you don't overdo it and get rid of all your managers. Now, suppose you need some more middle managers or leaders in the middle. Where do you get those? That's hard. Do you hire MBAs? Well, they just come out of a great school. I've got an MBA, and I'm here to tell you there's nothing in an MBA program that prepares you to actually lead people. You'll learn a lot of great theory about strategy, economics, accounting, finance, and all that kind of stuff. Very little in that program that actually talks about the details of leading people, right? Maybe you promote people from within into those spots, but are you promoting the right people? A lot of companies take their best sales guy, make him the sales manager, their best engineer, make him the engineering manager. Is that the best person? Maybe not. There's a very different skill set between leading and being good at whatever you were doing before, right? You might wind up with some people who are like fish out of water in that. So, where is a good example of how you develop those leaders in the middle? Who does that really well? There's only one systemic, institutional way to do it that I've seen in our culture that works, and that's the military. So how does that work? Well, let me give you an example. It was my own story. So I'm 17. I go off to the Naval Academy. You don't show up the first day and get treated like, oh, you're real important because you got into the most selective school. No, that first day, you're told to stand up straight, and you can only say 5 things. Yes, sir. No, sir. Aye, aye, sir. No excuse, sir. I'll find out, sir. And it goes downhill from there. It's a stressful time. You have to learn to deal with stress. It's stressful. Pushed physically, mentally. But you get, it turns out, a lot out of that. There's a method to the madness, right? You learn to deal with stress. You learn to be a good follower, which you have to be a good follower to be a good leader. You develop a lot of loyalty with your classmates and shipmates, and you bond together. Those are all good things, and you get to know yourself. And a lot of people decide they don't want to be there. That's not for them. That's okay too. That's part of being a leader. So the big thing is you learn yourself, know yourself. All right, the next year you come back, and now for the first time, you're starting to lead people. So you have the plebes that came in over the summer. Now you're starting to learn to give feedback, to help them set a vision for what they could be, to coach them along the way, to find their own strengths and build on those strengths. And in doing that for the next 3 or 4 years with different roles and levels of responsibility, you learn the basics of knowing your people. Turns out that's leg number 2. Know yourself, know your people. I graduate. I've got that degree in electrical engineering. I'm off to be a submarine officer. So there's a lot of school to get ready for that. Submarine officers, submariners in general, are known for their technical acumen. They have to be. You got a nuclear reactor. You got nuclear bombs. You've got a ship that's so complicated that one incompetent person can sink the ship and kill everybody on it. It's pretty important to be good at what you do. There's a 1.5 year long process after you get to the ship to get qualified in submarines and earn those gold dolphins. You have to learn every pipe, valve, whatever, what happens, what it's supposed to do, what happens if it's broke, how do you do workaround, all the processes and procedures. It's drill, drill, drill to get it right, make it muscle memory. You have to be good at what you do, and that turns out to be leg number 3. So you have to know yourself, know your people, and know your stuff. Companies could do a better job at doing that. In fact, Gallup just produced a big poll, and they wrote in a book called It's the Manager. And it talks about how those leaders in the middle, I'm not talking about the executive ranks, I'm talking about the sharp part of that axe that are engaging to accomplish the goal. They have to be good at what they do, and in too many companies, they're not. In fact, they find that the companies that are doing a good job, 70% of the difference between a well-performing company and a poorly performing company is the quality of its middle management. So, I have a lot of ideas for how to help your company be better, and we're going to talk about that more later. I've got 30 years in industry. I've been a part of companies that are doing really well, chopping down those trees. I've been a part of companies that are really struggling with a dull blade. I've turned around companies, made them go from bad to good. So I got a lot of ideas. We'll make that the subject of our next talk. But let me give you a heads up. There's 4 wins in there. There's a win for the owners and stockholders. Big financial rewards. No kidding, the company's doing a lot better, right? The executive team's got people, leaders in the middle who can go execute their grand strategies. They're a winner. The people in the middle that are executing are winning the loyalty of their employees and feel competent to do it. They're winning. And the employees finally have managers who are giving them meaningful work and standing behind them and making them feel like they're engaged and they're ready to go. It's a win for everybody. Look forward to talking.